everyone and welcome. So in today's video we will do some quick CGI integration into backplates in Houdini. So this should be a fun one. We will go from camera matching to generating depth maps with Onyx and also do the final render that should look something like this, where we integrate our bottle with the depth map that we generated. So let's get into it. So the first step would be to download a backplate and an HDRI. In this case, I am using this HDRI from Polyheaven, and if you go into the backplates, you will find this specific one, but you can choose another one and play with it. So one thing that we need to do is to download also, besides one of these JPEGs that will act as our backplate, we also need the original RAW so we can extract the EXIF data. So in Houdini, I'm gonna create a camera and look through it, and I'm going to select in here the background image. I believe I have it in here, which is this one, and I also need to scale it. So I need to put the right ratio, so I'm going to properties, and in here I will have this, so 5568. 5568, oops, not this one, 68 by 3712. So I need to put 3712. I need to have the correct ratio, as you can see. So now is a matter of aligning the grid to the image. That shouldn't be too difficult. But first of all, I'm gonna create an object that can represent some part of the environment so I can match it better. So for that I'm gonna create a geometry container and use a box. And I know that the size of 2, you can, if you have measurements is better, but if you don't, you can assume some dimensions. I'm gonna set this to 1, and this is about 0.8, so the height. And this should be rotated like this, towards this axis. And let's see, I'm going to make sure this is sitting flat on the ground. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it in here and divide it by 2. So now it's sitting on the ground. Going back to the camera, and now I'm gonna try to align this. Also, it's important when you're aligning that you assume some height of the camera. So if I go in here into the transform, you can see now I'm at 2 meters, 0.7, which is not very realistic. So usually you want to take like the human height as a reference. So I'm gonna try to replicate that, so that's fine. But as you can see, it's not aligning perfectly. The vanishing points are not working so well. And that's because we don't have a correct focal length. Or we have a similar one, but we can be more precise. So if we come in here, in this case, I don't want this one, I want the original RAW. So I'm going to properties and into the details. I can see here that this was shot on a Nikon 7500 and also a focal length of 32. And I happen to know this camera upon research that has a crop factor of 1.5. So if I come in here and set this to 32 times 1.5, we will have a focal length of about 48. So it was pretty close already, but just in case. So let me check something in here. I'm going to the transform and make sure I align this properly. So I'm gonna press W and something like this should work. I'm gonna keep an eye on this, so probably scale it a bit more. And the dimensions are not correct of this box, so I just did an assumption. So I guess this will be fine. Maybe scale it a bit more. And I guess this will be fine. Of course, we can come in here into the box. Let's lock this, and we can start to manipulate this a bit more to adjust it properly. And Now I can see the back, oh, I can see it in here. So it's more or less okay. I'm not going to worry too much. This is fine. So here is our camera and our reference object that we will use to align everything. So that's our first part done. Now we will create the depth map. So for the depth map, we will generate it using machine learning. And this is a model I saw on an Entagma video that seems to work okay. So I just need to come in here to Files and Versions, Onyx, and download one of these. I believe I will use a large one. Not this one, or I'm gonna use this one, I believe. Or is the large one. So GPT Swin. So I'm gonna use this one in here, which is about 800 megabytes. You just need to download in here. So we have our box. Now we will create a copnet and do a file and import our backplate. So let's see if I have it in here. I believe I do. So yeah. And now we will use Onyx. And we need to pass this as an RGB. And I'm gonna load the module. So in here, I'm going to my folder in here. And I'm gonna load, I believe, is this one that I used, 800 megabytes. Yeah, it is the largest one. And I'm gonna set up shapes from model. This will take just a second. Now it's fine. And if I enable it, it will error out because the resolution is way different. As you can see, this will output a 384 image. So I'm going in here and make sure in the resample I'm outputting a 384. So now it should be working, but you're getting this 128 in height, which I didn't understand at first. But we first need to equalize this just to make sure. Now we have the depth. But as you can see, we have it like over each other. So this will output 3 tiles in this case. So 100, if you come in here into the output, you can change this. If you change this, this will error out. So this will output 3 tiles along the way of 128. I believe that's for optimization, I'm not sure, but this is my first time playing with this. And if I do a channel split and look in here, you can see this is the front of our desk. Then in the green channel, we have the middle ground, and on the blue, we have the background. So we need to combine this somehow. There might be some better ways, but the one I found that worked well was using the contact sheet. And you can load the red, the green, and the blue. Let's look at that. So here we have, but now we need to do this too. How did I do this? So I did this bottom to top and don't stack. So now we have our output, as you can see. So we go from this to this. So now let's create a null. And I'm gonna call it out depth. And just for reference, I'm also going to create in here the backplate version. I'm just going to resample this to be 384. So I'm going to change this to parameter and 384, 384. And I also need to reframe the destination. So I'm going to create a null. And this will be our color. So now having the depth map and our also a color in here, we can generate the geometry. So let's create the grid. I believe I made these like one by one, and the default divisions will be fine, but I'm going to make it along the z-axis. Also going to create UVs because we will need them. And reverse the normals just for good measure. So let's check our UVs. We need to make these along the z-axis, of course, and they are looking aligned. So that's fine. This is our box. We can reference that in a bit. And now we will need to subdivide this because right now we won't have enough geometry to displace the plane into the depth map. So I'm gonna subdivide And I believe I used like 4 divisions or something, yeah. And then I'm gonna load in that map, so let's put from map. And I'm going in here and copy this output, Control C. And in here, I don't want to use CD, I want to use a float and call it that. And I'm gonna load it in here with the OP syntax, paste. And there we have it, we don't need to visualize it. So I'm just going to see the depth, there we have it. Now we can also use in here the CD and load in the, let's see if it's color, yeah. And we can load the color just for visualization. And now we need to align this plane to the camera. So for that, let's see our camera. Right now the plane is in here and we need to place it in the camera frustum, let's say. So for that we'll use some vex. First we need to load our camera, so for that I'm gonna create a string cam chs and I'm gonna call it pet to cam, oops, pet cam. Gonna enter in here and I need to edit parameter interface, and where is that? So pet to cam, and I'm gonna change it to operator pet and big cameras only. That's fine. Now I can come in here and just select the camera, and then we will do v at p. It will be equal from ndc, and we will load our camera and our position. Let's look at that. So right now it's placing it in the camera pad, but we actually need to offset this, so I'm gonna use in here stat at p.x plus 0. Let's just do at p.x and v at p.y and 0.0. So in this case we need to offset this by 0.5, and no, this is correct. We just need to offset along the z, so at p.z minus equals, and I'm gonna create in here outline z, and I skip existing, and I'm going to do this, so at p.z, and I have the pad to the camera, so that is fine. So yeah, I believe we actually need to offset this in here, so let's do plus 0.5 and y plus 0.5. So if we do 3 and it's not working, I need to set the camera, set the p, and let's set that p.z instead. Yeah, that is working. Sorry about that. So we need actually the z component, and now we can take our camera and move it along the path, along the frustum. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And if we look at the camera, it's aligning properly the plane to the camera, so we can scale it up and down and move it along the frustum. So in this case I'm going to set about 2.1, and I'm going to make sure to visualize this, so is this E, and as you can see it's more or less aligning with our reference object. And now where do we put our depth map? So we can come in here and do, so the normals in this case of the plane are aligning to the camera, so I thought that maybe we can do v at p plus equals along the normals and multiply it by the depth. And as you can see, that doesn't work so well because this is misaligned. So what we actually need to do, so let's just keep this in here and let's duplicate this, and instead let's use the z component in here and subtract the inverted depth map. on the NDC coordinates. So let's do a depth. And as you can see, now it's aligning much better. So we add this, and now we have a more realistic result. So as you can see, we have our objects. Of course, this depth map is not perfect. Was automatically generated, but it can work in some situations, and I'm gonna assume this is okay for now. So there we have it. Now if we look at the camera, we have everything more or less aligned, as you can see, and you can come in here and play with the offset. So here you can play where you want this to go. So in this case, I know a value of 2.1 is aligning okay with it, maybe a bit less, so something like this. And the cool thing about this is that we can put some objects in here and interact with the environment. So that's always nice. And in the next part, we will add some object to this and do the render in Karma. So let's clean this up, let's delete this. And I forgot to mention in the last part that this tip was by Swalsh. So he actually helped me in this configuration to set the depth on the MDC coordinates. So thank you for that, Swalsh, and let's move on. So now I'm gonna create in here a null and create an out proxy geo. Oops. And now I'm gonna import a Euro object, so I'm just gonna paste it in here, which is this bottle we use for our texture projection tutorial. And I'm going to do, in this case, a projection on this. So I'm gonna use my texture projection tool that you can get on my Patreon alongside with this model. So I'm gonna load in here. So let me just project in here an image. I'm gonna load the Houdini logo that I have somewhere in here. So instead of this default one, I'm gonna rotate it, holding Control, and scale it a bit. And I also need to play in here with the max distance. So that's fine. I guess this is fine. I'm also going to change this to 2K, and I'm just gonna create a null in here. That's fine. So now I also need to scale this because right now not properly scaled, so I'm gonna create a match size and scale it to about 0.3. So about 30 centimeters along the Y. So I'm gonna scale to fit, change this to mean, and scale it to 0.3. So this now is about 0.3 in Y, so 30 centimeters, which is fine. And I believe that's our object. Let's create a null. And now we can do a simple transform to place it on the geometry. So I'm gonna load this. And in this transform, I'm gonna place it in here by pressing O. This is my shortcut. I believe the default one is semicolon to snap objects to other objects. So as you can see, it's a bit misaligned. So I'm gonna shift and place in here 0, 0. So that's fine. Now we just need to make sure we transform this, we rotate this properly. So in this case, I use the value of 188 along the Y so I can see the logo later. So this will be fine. We can also play with the position along the Y, but that will be aligned. So I'm gonna create a name in here. This is already named, so that's fine. I'm gonna create one for this part. And I'm gonna call it proxy geo. Proxy geo. Let's merge these two and create a null, which I'm going to call out. This is where we'll be moving this into Solaris. So I'm gonna create in here, just to make sure I have this in transparent, and I copy this path so I can import it into shading. So I'm gonna create a lobnet, network. I'm gonna change this to Solaris, but moving to the object, and lobnet sub import, call this geo. So geo, let me see in here. And I'm gonna import out. So now I'm gonna make sure to merge this and also import the camera. So sin import cameras. This should import our camera. Let's look through that. That is fine. Now we need to, let's see, if we remove the wireframe and we look through the solid view, or to the, if we disable this and just look through the camera, we will have this background image. So I'm gonna instead do camera edit to remove the background. I believe this should work. So let's see, go into view and background image, set or create, and make sure I edit this camera. So that's fine. That removed the background. If we do nothing, this will load it back. And what else we will do? We will create a material library. Make sure we enable this geometry. We will create a dome light, which is where we will load our HDRI to this environment. And we'll also do camera render settings. I'm gonna load this as XPU. And of course we need to use the background plate to integrate the backplate in here. And we will load as a plate our image, and as geometry we will use the proxy geo. So in here. So that's fine. And for the HDRI, I'm just gonna load it. I have it in here. So let's see. Set this to light long and load it. I'm gonna make sure I render only the viewport side and change this to dark. I can change this to light, that's fine. Now we need to align this HDRI with our environment. As you can see, it's not properly aligned. This will never be perfect. So I need to change this in here. So for that, I'm gonna rotate this by about, let's say 20, 30, let's see. And that should be better. I'm looking in here. That should be better. So let's see, let's create a material maybe. So let's create a material. And I'm gonna name this to bottle. So bottle main mat. Just gonna set it to gray for now and do for roughness. Let's assign this to all of these for now. And let's do a simple render. So I'm just gonna make sure I don't display this. And why is this not aligning? Oh, I need to change in here the camera render settings. I need to change this to cam 1. Now that's working. So I'm gonna create a smaller space in here and let's do a simple render. And of course we need to change some things in here. So the background plate, I have the proxy geo, I have the plate, but I also need to change some things in here. So in the camera effects, I'm gonna disable depth of field and motion blur. And now it's not loading the, oh, I know why. It's not loading the shadows, the shadow paths, because we need to come in here on the image output and import the render vars and render product. So now this should work, and as you can see, it's working. It's creating the shadow. It's more or less aligned with this, maybe not so. Maybe we need to change this a bit. Maybe -20. Maybe that's fine. So let's do halfway between. So that is fine. It's creating the shadow. Now, just for fun, we will create the materials. So to finish this, we will create just some quick materials for the bottle. I'm gonna import in here the image. Gonna make sure I have that loaded. So in here, I'm gonna copy this path and go again to the botnet. And I'm gonna load as an image and make sure I load it as color 4 and paste this. And now we can do a separate color 4 so we can import the alpha, and we use a mix, and I'm gonna convert this to RGB only. It's not necessary, but I just like to do it. I'm gonna load this as the foreground, this as a mask, and as a background I can set this to a gray value, and let's load this in here. And of course it's not showing. Why is that? Usually, oh, I need just to set this on the bottom. Oh, it's rotated the other way around. So what we can do, we can pin this and go in here. We can place a transform also in Solaris, but I'm just going to rotate this. So something like this. Is this fine? Let's look through the camera. Yeah, maybe it's a bit big, but in this case I'm gonna rotate it like this. So that's fine. I'm so used to going to the stage, but I wanted to create this in a LockNet just to be different. And our logo is a bit big, but that's fine. So I'm gonna change in here the background color. My bottle is orange, but we have this orange here from the bottle. So I'm gonna pick instead some blue. Gonna quickly create in here gray matte. Gonna change this to some gray and change the specular to about 0.5. Duplicate and call it ground matte. Set the metalness, set the color to white, and this to about 0.3. Just gonna load the materials and assign this to the gray matte and this to the chrome. And I'm just gonna increase this to 512 and go in here and change some, place some denoiser, and let's look at our render. And yeah, the Houdini logo is way too big, but that's fine. So yeah, guys, this was basically it. I hope you have learned something new from this video. You can download this full setup on my Patreon alongside with exclusive tutorials. I always say the same thing, but if you haven't joined my Patreon, consider supporting me over there, because it's what enables me to make these sort of free videos. And I also do exclusive videos on Patreon and have some courses in there that are pretty cheap, and all the project files from my videos. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and I guess I'll see you next time. Thank you.